Go.
Okay. I want to make a little comment about the fact that I had an experience with a Ringer washing machine one time, which nobody knows anything about these days because there are different washing machines these days, but in those days we had a big roller, two rollers that pinched together and took the clothes out of the washer itself, and you ran them through the Ringer and squeezed all the water out. Fascinated me. I thought, what the heck is that? Look at that. Those pair of pants that come out very, very flat. I wonder, put my arm up there and see how this is. My hand got up in there and I couldn't get it out. Kept it rolling and rolling. Right. It lifted me right off the floor because they're only 4 years old and the washing machine's about this high. I was hanging in there, crying and yelling for Mama. She finally came out and released it, but that's all I remember except that she used to come to me every night. I had big bangs on my shoulder in here. She'd come in and put Ungentine on it and rub this thing Ungentine because there was a big burn right there. But Lois remembered she coming in. What did you see when you came home from school?
I came home from school, I was in the first grade, I was 6. I had walked home from school, I came around the back door to get into the house. I opened the washroom door and there was this huge blood all over the floor, all over the washing machine, and clumps of flesh.
Wow.
Hanging onto the washing machine. I was just floored. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. And I didn't know what that was until I ran inside the house. And there was my mother in great despair. She had already had the doctor there, and Bob, by that time I found him, he'd already been wrapped up by
Right.
Dr. Mudd.
Didn't break any bones. No
No.
bones broken. Amazing.
Absolutely.
But the crazy thing about it, Raymond had to try the thing about two or three, I don't know how many years later, he had to try it too. But we got him stopped in time. And then Alice said, wait a minute, John did the same thing. So all boys they got to try it out one way or another. I don't know why.
Well, Al and I figured it out because we put the clothes through, so we were maybe making that the way we did it. We weren't going to put our hand through that. We saw how flat those clothes came out all the time. We weren't sure that we wouldn't be flat too, but we didn't want to do that. Well, we talked about it though.
I bet it was a common happening when we were little kids around the washing machine.
I think it
Well,
It was a common occurrence.
It was.
I guess so.
Yeah.
It was.
Wow.
A bit, and then, that old Maytag washer we kept for years, even on 27th Street. And we finally had to get rid of it because there were new washers that you didn't have a wringer anymore.
That's right.
And you ran it not only out of the soapy part, you ran it into the rinse water, and then you rinsed it, then you ran it into another rinse water.
Yeah.
And then you had to wring it out so you could hang it out on the clothesline.
Right.
So there was a process, and that wringer got a lot of work. It did a big
More
job.
ways than one.
That's right, that's right.
Right.
But tell me, what's the repercussions of that scar? You have a still scar. Do you still have a scar?
Can't hardly see it anymore. It used to be pretty prevalent. It's not much anymore.
Didn't keep you out of the service.
Oh, no.
I mean, some people I know have bone spurs, and they don't have to go in.
No, that's all right. My arm is still functioning just fine.
You can
that's
move it
fine.
high enough.
Oh, yes. No problem with that at all.
Okay.
That's
All
okay.
right.
Anyway.
Okay, so that was, now, did you want to start the next?
Next phase, we're going to talk about chores.
Yes.
That's a
sure.
ranch.
Yes. When we were all out there together.
We all
Or
had
any
chores.
place. I think as our lifetime, up till we're probably 18, or we left the house, and we still had responsibilities in our house.
Oh, yes.
As individuals, kids that lived in a household, not just one on the ranch, but elsewhere too.
Well, I can remember the chores that Raymond and I had were much different than the girls had, of course, Since we had the farm, we had cows, and I guess it was the routine was that we'd come home from school,
Yeah.
we would play for an hour or so, but always at 3:30, we had to go out, round up the cows, bring them in, get them in the barn, and it was funny because the cows all knew the extension, the place that they had in their line. They would all come in, they'd go to the right particular, no names, we had the cows were all named, of course, but every cow knew where they had to go in the stanchion, in the barn, without telling, they just absolutely knew they'd go in there. And Raymond and I, then we got the hay out, we start feeding them in the trough so they can eat while they're getting milk, My father would come in and he'd make a few comments. Then Raymond and I, we'd go in the house. And we'd be in the house until, well, we'd eat dinner, I guess. After dinner, Raymond and I and Lois would sit down, listen to our favorite radio show, which come on about 7 o'clock or so. But invariably, my father, right in the middle of it, 7:30, he'd whistle. And Raymond, what was that whistle like?
That's it. That's it.
Boy, you better be out there within minutes. If more than 3 minutes he's in the house, where in the hell are you kids? Get you out of here. You got work to do out here. Now, our job is to clean up all the sewer, the mess that the cows made in the barn before they're left.
That's washing it with water, shoveling and washing.
Shovel out all the manure, get it out of here, and then wash the whole thing out before you finished up. That was pretty much our chore for that day. We were through for that day for sure. Except that later on, as we got a little bit older, Mother said, you know, I need help with the dishes. And Lois would do the dishes. Raymond and I would help with the dishes also in the evening. Because I used to love to sit there and we'd be standing there
Yeah.
doing, and
Sing.
Lois would start singing a song,
Yes.
and we'd all harmonize with her, singing a song, some crazy song. I don't know what it was necessarily. We were more fun doing the dishes, you know.
Yep,
It was lots of fun. Those were chores.
yep.
We did them automatic, the same way, you know. I never thought of it as a chore, but I guess at one time I had to cut wood.
Oh, yeah.
Wood
You did
stove.
all
I
the
don't, I
time.
remember a little bit about, I had my own
Wood
hatchet,
stove.
and we had eucalyptus logs, which you chipped up, you know,
Right.
bring them in. I guess that was part of the
Did we
chore.
have the sawhorse or that, the
Some
log
big
splitter
old,
that?
big old block of wood.
Yeah, we had a couple of things out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Bob
remember
always chopped
vaguely
the wood.
about that. Well, that was one of be my question about how we had a wood stove that Mother cooked everything on all the time, that big old wood stove. Where did we get the wood from and who cut the wood? Well, now I know.
Bob did.
I did not know where we got the wood
I
from
don't
to
know where we
begin
got the
with.
wood
Well, we
necessarily.
would pick it up at the store. Sometimes ice
Right.
houses would have the storage wood places.
Oh, yes.
We'd
The
pick
wood
up the
box.
wood, and Bob's job was to chop the wood for the wood stove.
Yeah,
We had a wood box next to the stove.
that's right.
That's
You
right.
fill that
And you
thing
would
up.
put the wood in the wood box next to the
Yeah, fill it
big
up.
black stove. And then we had to have that going a lot longer than just for food, because that
Hot
heat
water.
warmed the water that went into the water heater to give us a warm bath.
That's right.
We didn't have any hot water any other way. We had to have it from the stove.
So we
Yeah.
did that until, and I don't remember my chores until I really don't remember. I must have had to make my bed, or most of the time I slept with Grandma, so but I can't remember having to do dishes till I got onto 21st Street, and I was about 9, and you were all older, you know, the three of you were older doing other
They had
things.
other things.
And Sarah and I ended up doing dishes.
I don't ever remember making a bed. Did you ever make
I
a
don't
bed?
remember
Who made
making
our
beds.
beds?
I have no idea.
We did, we made the beds. We all were taught to make
To
our
make a
own.
bed, and
remember
then,
doing that.
because, when we were on the ranch, there was only one bedroom.
Yes.
That's
There was, and so the house was the living room, dining area, but there were 2 porches, and you boys slept on one
Sleeping.
side, and our parents slept on the other.
There were screened-in porches. They were called the sleeping porches.
Right.
What they
That's
were.
Right.
No air conditioning. You slept
No.
out on the porch in the summertime.
Right.
It was a cooler out there.
Well, it cooled off because it was like the desert of those
That's
days.
right.
But then Sarah slept in a crib, and I
I
slept
did.
with Grandma, and Lois slept
That
in
old
an
green
alcove
crib, I was.
Where did you sleep, Lois?
In the alcove
off the
Well,
living
that's
room.
right.
Remember that?
was a cot.
Grandma's out there with
We
you.
used to sit in that to hear the radio, listen to the radio in that little alcove.
Oh, yes.
And there was a
Oh,
couch
yes.
there.
Okay, yep.
That's where I slept.
I remember
Because
that.
Grandma slept in the bedroom with Alma, and
Yeah.
I think the crib was
Slept
in
out
there.
with-
And the crib was in the bedroom.
Yes.
And we had one bathroom for all of that,
And
always.
Brave
porch in
people.
the
One
bedroom.
bathroom, brave people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that probably, I was trying to think what I did do. I know Sarah and I played an awful lot
Yeah.
at the playhouse, but, you know, and so because we
That
were.
Mr. Peak made.
That
Yeah.
Mr. Peak made, that's right.
But I know that Mother expected us to learn how to do things, set tables and things, and I'm sure we must have done something like that. But I don't remember doing dishes until I got in the 4th grade.
Sure.
And I was washing dishes, and Sarah and I would decide who was gonna wash and who was
Fought
gonna
about
dry. And we didn't have any singing, but anyway. So that's all I remember, but I'm sure that I was expected to help with the garden. I mean, remember one year we had to carry water to the garden because the windmill didn't produce the water we needed, the pressure. And Grandma had this garden, I think it was the last year we were there.
Probably, yeah, I
We
remember
had
that
to,
one,
and so those were, when we had a garden, we all had some kind of job to do with it, because Grandma had her garden and had to be watered.
We tried to grow corn one year.
I remember, I was just gonna tell you about the
It
corn.
was kind of a failure. It didn't really work very well because we didn't have enough corn to really pollinate the other pieces very well.
Oh.
I don't know what happened. It was not too well. Raymond and I were so mad to be out there in the front of the house, digging in old dirt, hard dirt, trying to plant this stuff that Grandma wanted planted. Neither one of us were into gardening at all at that time. Forget that noise. I'd rather go play football somewhere across the street than down here digging this garden, for crying out loud.
Well, the dirt was so bad, Bob. The dirt was hard pan.
Oh Lord, it was.
And
Oh, Lord, yeah,
it was
building.
not like other
was
places,
bad.
so anyway, amazingly grew anything, so. But I guess there were times that, we had things we picked, we had pomegranate trees,
Oh yes.
we had apricots, so apparently I probably did some things with that, but as I say, I don't remember that until I got to be about 4th grade. But I'm sure that we were expected to pick, we didn't have a lot of clothes, but we were expected to change our clothes when we got home so we had something to wear the next day to school.
That's true.
And we had things that we wore around and that kind of thing. So anyway, that's what I remember about chores. Ray, what about yourself there?
Pretty much the same as Bob would say, cleaning the barns, taking care of the cows to get them in.
Yeah.
Sometimes it would be very cold in the mornings when you'd have to get the job done, but you needed to get it done.
7 days a week, too.
7 days a
We
week,
didn't
every
any
day.
days off for the dairy business.
And you went before school?
There was no break
Yeah.
anywhere in that.
I don't know, before school, I don't think we did that.
Oh, you
In
did
the
that
morning, I
night?
don't remember doing it in the morning. I think our father would rounded up the cows in the morning.
Oh,
I do not remember doing anything in the morning before I went to school,
Except on weekends.
except on weekends.
Weekends,
He did all the cleaning because he knew we had to get to school.
yeah.
So he did it all, take care of it then. And my mother was out there too, might have been helping at that time, I do not know.
Yeah.
But it was always in the afternoon, that was our job in the afternoon, get that done.
But it's always wood boxes full. And as Lois had mentioned, there was a shop on what's known as Martin Luther King Way. It was J Street at the time. And we could stop, it was near the railroad tracks. There was a center that you could stop by, and you could get blocks of wood and coal sometimes as well,
oh, really?
that you could buy.
Oh,
And I remember being with Grandma one time, she stopped there to get some wood and some coal. And we'd use that as to help us with
I
our
bet
fire.
that wood came
because
from Cross Lumber Company, which is right across the street,
It's across the track.
right across the track.
Right across
Big
the
lumber
tracks.
yard right there,
On the left-hand side, there was a spot where you could get it,
probably was.
and then you pick it up. But it helped a great deal when you didn't have any wood in it around to help you with your fire, because the wood stove we had, that was the only way, well, until then we got kerosene and came in, we got a kerosene burner later on,
right,
but
you did,
that in the house.
in the living room, wasn't it?
No, the kerosene was in the kitchen and that
Oh, the
other wall.
kitchen.
It was
Oh,
four
yeah.
burners or something.
But we didn't have
Okay.
kerosene costs money, so that was the limitation on how much you could use that.
Yeah, you got the wood free.
You got the wood free,
Almost
so you
free.
could rent, so running the kerosene stove. I remember the only time we used that, one of the basic times we used it was for Christmas when we were making all the candy and fixing all the stuff for Christmas holidays at Farmdale. The Christmas party at Farmdale, we got to use that kerosene stove for that. Didn't use it very often, but Raymond's right, we did have that when we needed
You
it.
know, thinking about Sarah mentioning Christmas, you remember one Christmas when Uncle Raymond was with us.
Yeah,
And I don't know which year it was, but we were out on Mission Avenue living there.
I was only about
And
4.
he, he had a gift for Bob and
I know that.
I, an axe and a BB gun.
That's right.
I I thought mother was just gonna go through
Oh,
the scene.
God, you're not
She
kidding.
was so upset.
Oh,
An
man.
accident, a BB gun.
How could you do this? They're gonna shoot one of them, somebody's gonna put an eye out somewhere along the line.
The axe, Uncle Raymond knew you gotta have that axe to cut that wood, for the kindling, for the firebox, you gotta have it. But I don't know why he thought the BB gun was important.
Raymond, you know, it was only a single shot.
Well,
Yeah, single shot, you had to put a BB in every time, and then cock it and fire. You know? Single shot, John Mayer across down the street, very rich, he had an automatic loader.
Right, right.
He had 25 BBs in his gun at one time, better than one shot.
And Tom always had the horse, and he could always get away from you with the horse doing
That's
his
right.
gun, you know, it was always
Oh,
an
God,
issue with
yes.
him.
that was quite an experience, when I could see the expression in mother's
Oh,
face
Lord.
when that happened. But you know, the chores were very important, I think, for all of us.
Oh,
I think
yeah.
it helped us, in one sense, I think it helped a great deal in organizing oneself and developing a routine in your life. Things that you just had a routine that you did, and that was the way it was gonna
Part
work.
of learning how to work.
Yes, and it's interesting because Jonathan said to me one time, he said, you know, Dad, one of the important things that I've learned from you is how, is work. Is how to work. You know, a work ethic, he said, is so important. And he says, I've sort of acquired that, work ethic, that you've always got something to do. You're going to be busy. And I think Grandma was one of those that helped share
Oh, my
it with us.
gosh, yeah.
But all of us
Yeah.
developed that routine when we were working on the farm. We just did, as people.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I
yeah,
think all of
that's
us
right.
carried that forward with ourselves too.
Well, the other thing I always feel that it's your home with your family, with your parents, and if you're never have an opportunity to do anything in the home, then you're not
You
part
feel
of
like a
that.
part of it.
Right, and it's really important that you, as children, we all had things, it was our home, and we helped take care of
You
it.
contributed.
We did contribute, and that's the thing that I felt.
Well, I think Mother said that periodically too, as, you know, talking about raising our own children. And I remember when we talked about the kids getting chores when they're little. What are their chores? What did they? She said chores were important. Give them something to do because then they're contributing to the household. And then she may not have said that to us, but that was her feeling, and that was her reasoning why we couldn't just sit around and let things happen to us. We had to be part of what was going on.
And I think I always felt I did my chores and I got that done, then I could do something. I waited, I always did. I knew if I got this job done and I finished it, then I could go on and do something I wanted
Sure.
to do.
You did not get paid for your chores, though.
Oh, no,
No,
don't
no.
think so.
You got paid for chores, no way.
No.
You
Like
did-
Raymond said, he worked for Merced Dairy and Ice, or they never did get paid for it until, you know, a little bit later, somebody found out he wasn't getting paid.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's right. I don't ever remember getting paid for any. Maybe Mr. Peak would give you a penny or two once in a while just because Mr. Peak
Well,
was Mr. Peak. But
When we were delivering milk for Uncle Bob with my father on the back of the truck,
uh-huh.
Uncle Bob would give Raymond and I a dime every time we came
Oh,
in
yeah,
at
I
the end of the day.
Oh,
A
yes,
dime. Which,
yes.
maybe for an hour and a half of work, something like that, 10 cents. It was big money in those days.
That's
you know?
exactly
Well,
right.
don't you remember?
saved it
yeah,
up.
The other thing, don't you remember hauling the almonds that we had to haul out of
Oh,
the
yes.
Weavers? And
We
we
never
got,
talked about that one, did we?
We got paid for that.
Oh,
we
we
got
did.
paid for.
You
oh,
got
we
$1 a
paid.
pound, the big gunny sack full
Yeah,
of
$1
almonds that you
a
hauled.
Yeah.
And hulling wasn't, it was taking the outside furry shell off of the
Yeah.
almond shell itself. And then you put them in the big gunny sack bag and got $1 a bag, something like that.
Something like that.
I think we all did that.
Well,
You did
I
that.
didn't go
What's
very
that?
often.
You hauled the almonds, you did the, at the Weavers, haul the almonds, take the, we all
Oh,
did
yes,
that.
in the summer we worked
Yeah,
with the
we
almonds.
did, we did.
Took the hulls
Did we-
off.
did we
the-
say-
Did you shake them with Uncle Bob?
Huh?
Did you go out with Mr. Bowles or whoever and shake the almond trees?
Uncle Bob and I did that.
Yes, I thought so, I remember
We had the
that.
horse,
Uh-huh,
maybe a couple of horses.
big
He had-
canvas
he had-
sheets you put
He had a
under
big
the,
long sled
uh-huh.
and big canvas drapes. We pulled the canvas out of the inside of the tree, and I'd get this big hammer with a rubber
Right.
end on it, and go up and knock the trees. And he'd get a long pole and shake it on it like along a bamboo pole,
Yeah.
knocking the animals off in the ground, then we get all down, then we roll them up and put them in the big sled and bring them back. Yeah.
Okay, and then we
Well,
were,
then it was our job to take those fuzzy hulls
Oh
off
my
of
God.
the.
That's right.
boy, did we
And
ditch.
they were just so fuzzy that they'd get all over your hands. It
I
would-
know,
But we would do that all day long.
sure.
Oh, we
And I don't remember being paid for it. Were
Oh,
we
you
paid?
did, I'm sure you did.
I think you got a
Yes.
dollar a bag.
I remember he gave us money and we used to swim in the ditch bank
Yes,
after
we
we
used to
did.
swim in their ditch in
Yeah,
front of the
Out
house.
front.
Yeah.
That's we
I
did
don't
that-
remember being paid, but maybe we were
Oh,
paid a
yes,
dime.
cousins, you were out there with cousins, Phyllis the Skeeter came out there with us too.
Yes, they did. Our
They were out
cousins
there helping
came.
us, yeah.
We all did the almond hauling
Yeah,
by
But we should
hand.
probably make the comment that Auntie and Uncle Bob had the farm,
Yes.
which was really a working farm and also a dairy, a grain and
Yes.
dairy at the same
Right.
time. But all of us kids were involved in working in
Yeah.
that farm at one
Yeah,
time or
we
another.
did.
But
Yeah.
besides what we also lived in.
Right.
Most of the time was when we had moved into town, and then we went out to Uncle Bob and Auntie's out there along Bear Creek Drive, way out at the other end, which is now,
Yeah.
what's it, housing development now,
Probably.
yeah.
But they had that whole, from Bear Creek clear down to, way out to what is now
Yeah.
Olive Drive, I
They
think, but
probably
I'm
had
not sure.
60 acres out there or something
What?
like that.
Oh, they had a huge
Who
acreage
did?
back, Uncle Bob and Auntie.
No.
They're-
No, no,
oh, yeah.
no, no,
It
not
didn't
really.
go out that far, I don't mean to Olive, but it went out there quite a
He
ways.
had 25 acres.
Well, that's a good piece.
And it was out there, but it
Yes,
didn't go
right.
over.
Muratori's were on one side, and
That's
Sodas
right.
were on the other side.
That's right.
And he was
They
in the middle.
rented
wasn't
out
very much.
property also.
Yeah. But that, they had other things, they had, Mr. Bowles had the bees, famous
Oh, I
bees.
know that.
And, I mean, not only did they have the almonds, but you guys did the hard shell almonds, which were harder to do later on. The shell was harder to get off, the furry piece was hard to get, because they're
Yeah,
littler.
but besides
The
that,
big soft shells were better, easier to, they
they
split
also had
themselves.
apricots, don't you remember drying apricots out there?
Oh,
You guys
yes.
Cut them up,
Yeah,
we take them out, put them on the big tray, the wooden tray, and let the sun dry them.
yeah, yeah. And, I mean, those were jobs, I was too young. And I cried every day because you guys got to go out there and I didn't get to go. And Mother would give in once in a while and then she'd have to come and get me. I got so sick from the furry stuff off the almonds or
Right.
whatever. It was hard work. And I was so little, I wasn't very old, but I still remember on 21st Street, standing on that porch right there in the
You'd be
front
more about
and
6 years
crying
old.
because I could not go with you guys. I spent a lot of my life trying to catch up and trying to do it. But I could go once in a while, but really wanted to do was go swim
Okay.
in the canal.
more than anything else.
I dearly remember Uncle Bob, before any of us could swim, that early summer, he would go out there and clean the canal and make sure there was no glass in it or anything. He would spend his time and get it ready so we could go out there and swim. And Auntie then, in exchange, I remember, she was taking those big canvas paper, that you would do for that. And I remember her washing those and getting those all cleaned and bleached and getting ready so he could go out there with the almonds. Whether she
Really?
did it in the fall or after they were through or whatever time, but I remember those big
Wow,
sheets of
how she did
canvas.
that. Wow.
Big sheets of canvas out there. Remember seeing those and thinking that she did take care of those.
Yeah.
And then if we were out there, we could play croquet once in a while if we behaved
Croquet was
ourselves.
a big thing for Uncle Bob.
Absolutely.
After Sunday dinner or a big holiday of some sort, there was always a big croquet tournament between all the adults.
Yes,
Us kids weren't involved, we had to watch.
that's right.
Our uncles and fathers out there playing with Uncle Bob, doing croquet. Very serious thing, boy, I'll tell
Absolutely.
you.
It's like horseshoes for some people now.
That's right. He played croquet.
We played croquet. We had our own little sets that we couldn't touch theirs.
That's right.
We had our own little sets that we could go play with once in a while, we learned to play croquet that way. So there are a lot of things that went on out there. Not
Oh,
only
yes.
our chores and our things that we're making the almonds and doing the other things, the grapes, remember that he'd always bring at different times and
They were a
stuff.
big part of our life when we were growing up, those
Absolutely.
two people.
They were.
The other most important thing that Uncle Bob and Auntie always said was the outhouse.
The
Remember
outhouse.
the outhouse
Oh,
by the
back in
barn?
the barn?
Yes,
That's where I found out what the other pages were for.
that's right.
They
You know why you had telephone directories? You
didn't
might
have
have yellow
toilet paper, they
pages.
had a big big old Bell telephone book out there, yellow pages in it.
No,
That was the paper you used. What the heck?
We had, that was quite an adventure for us too, to go out to the outhouse on the other side of the barn. We couldn't go in the house. If we wanted to go to the bathroom, we had to go out there.
That's
And
right.
use the outhouse behind the barn back there.
That's right.
Yeah. It was quite an adventure even for us that lived sort of a rustic life in our own self. But that was different for us too.
That was a working farm, boy, I'll tell you.
Absolutely working farm.
Being
And
over.
family working farm. I mean,
Yeah.
Auntie and Uncle Bob ran that, and then the family would come in and help whatever, or friends or relatives or whoever. Interesting. Lois, what choice did you have? Being the
Well,
oldest of the family.
because when Alma was 7, I was 14, and Sarah was 5. They were practically useless for chores. But I was 14, and boy, I was the one who got the chores night. And then when Bob was old enough, he came out to the kitchen and had to dry the dishes.
Right.
And that's when we would sing. And we would sing and sing and sing all the cowboy songs, all the songs that we knew by heart. We would sing while we did the dishes. But I was also expected to set the table every night and clean up the table afterwards. And my job also was to sweep the living room and the dining room with a broom. It had a linoleum floor,
Right.
and it was easy. It was my job to sweep the floor and get the dishes done and the table set. And then we had the beds, and we taught everybody how to make a bed as soon as we could. I remember the boys, I think they didn't make their own bed, but I'm sure that the rest, Sarah and Alma, they learned to make a bed as soon as they could.
Oh, yeah.
I don't remember ever making their beds. And I know that I made mine right away. I'm sure they did too, as soon as they could. Mother just had way too much to do to run that farm and 5 children and try to do everything. She did huge canning,
Oh, yeah.
did food canning all summer long so that we would have food in the winter. She had huge amounts of cleaning and cooking all day long, and we would have often 8 or 10 people for dinner. 8 all the time. There were 8
Yeah,
of
that's
us.
right.
And she didn't think anything about cooking for 10 or more.
But did
Somebody
she teach
came
you how
by.
to cook?
Pardon?
Did you learn how to cook from her?
You know, she did not teach us how to cook.
No.
She did not. She did the cooking all of her own. She would do the cooking and then just put it up, all the dishes on the sink and walk out. I was to clean up. But I did not ever learn how to cook from
That's right.
her.
That's interesting because she used to make her own biscuits. We made biscuits all the time.
Yeah.
She made them, and I still remember she'd have the breadboard out there, and I was little, of course, 4 or 5 years old, and I would be underneath there while she was baking the biscuits, and I always asked her as a little tiny kid what she was doing and how she did it, and like Grandma making her own noodles. I always asked, why did I do that? I don't know. While you guys were asking other questions, mine was, what are you cooking and how do you do that? And Mother would show me how to cut the biscuits and not do it the wrong way. So you did it on the outside, just don't cut it in the middle. And she taught me as a little tiny girl. She not taught me, she would explain it. I would ask the questions. And I remember the dough, she would hand me the dough as I'm underneath the counter or right next to her or whatever. I remember that. I was there while she was doing a lot of those kinds of things. Not while she was maybe cooking other things. But that one I really remember, and I don't know whether that sort of got me into my own, brought me into some things about cooking or whatever, I do not know. But for me, she showed me a lot as a little tiny kid about food. And the canning, all those things, I just remember so clearly about that I don't remember other things. So your other chores, Lois, is that it?
Now, our father liked to have us learn as much as we could in the farm. And one time he told me after they got the milk machine,
Yeah,
they had to be washed and cleaned.
Oh, yes,
yeah,
sir.
right.
And he wasn't about to do it. We had a little wash house next to the drive
That's
by the
right.
barn.
Yeah.
And he would take them over to the little wash house. And he taught me how to wash the big tanks and clean the hoses, the little things that attach to the hoses and so on. He showed me how to do it once, and I was supposed to know how to do it after that, and I did.
Yeah.
A couple of days later, he came in and he said, "Well, sis, you're doing a good job. It's yours."
It's yours.
That was my job. And then later, and then these were not jobs that were continuous, but later on, probably when I was about 14, well, no, I wasn't that old, we had a lot of little heifers. We bought, in a circumstance, we bought a bunch of
Oh,
heifers.
I remember that.
And they had baby calves. And this was their first group of babies. And he had about 6 or 7 of them. And of course he was taking care of the heifers, milking them, plus the other cows we had. He was very busy. So he taught me how to feed the babies.
That's right, we all learned that.
You all learned
Oh,
that.
yes,
He'd mix the mash
Yes.
with the milk
yep,
in the bucket,
that's right.
bring it over to
I
the
remember
fence,
that. Yeah.
and call the little baby calves over. And we knew how to get our fingers in
You
the
put your
mash,
hands down there, let
dip
the
it in, bring your fingers up and shove it in their
Exactly.
mouths.
Yep, you
And
had
keep
it,
feeding them like that.
Yeah.
And I taught that, I did that for quite a
I
while.
forgot about that. We did
While
that.
they were young.
Yeah,
They
we
didn't
had-
last very long.
Well, a couple of months, something
Yeah.
like that, you know. Then they learn how to eat on their own from then on. But
This what?
they learn how to eat on their own.
Yes, then they
That's
were.
how you
eating.
started them by putting your hand on it, let them suck on your fingers.
Yes,
like that,
yes, they'd
you
get
know.
their food.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Instead of their mother,
That's
you
right.
used your fingers.
That's right,
And you used the mash mixture, put it up in there
that's right.
in their mouths. I was afraid at first that they'd bite my fingers, but they never
They
did.
didn't have teeth, really didn't have any teeth yet.
Yeah,
at
they
that
had.
time.
They didn't
Yeah.
bite.
Yep, yep.
But those were my 2 chores outside that I can remember. We all had the chores of picking up figs. And that was in the summer, when it was the very hottest time of the summer. We had at one time 20 acres of figs. And the figs were dried, would drop down on the ground. And the ground was just a plowed rough.
Oh, it was
Dirt.
awful, wasn't it?
And our grandmother took pity on us, of course, right away. Made big soft pads out of old used jeans.
Right.
And we would tie the pads over our knees and then crawl around under the trees with the pads on our knees to pick up the dried figs. Do you remember?
Oh,
Oh, I
yeah.
remember them making Ray wearing those pads. I remember that.
Well, I remember we
You
all learned
and
how I couldn't
Sarah
pick up
came,
anything.
but you were
That's
useless. Forget
You're
it.
useless.
You
I
didn't pick
realize
up
that.
a single fig, but you played the
Probably
whole time.
ate
You brought your dollies and you played under the shade of the tree. Ray
The
and
rest of you.
Ray and Bob and our mother and whoever else we could get that was visiting us or whatever came by.
Well, we weren't very good at it because eventually my father hired people to come in and do it.
Yeah, I did.
It was too hard for them
We just could not do
because
that.
you had to get the figs from the plowed dirt. It wasn't smooth.
That's right, it
It
was.
was rough and you had to
Those
dig around to
hand
get it. Well, we had gloves,
Put it
but
in
I
the
don't
bucket.
remember.
Had to
No,
put
I
them in
don't
the
have any
bucket.
gloves.
I don't think we
remember
had
gloves,
gloves.
only the knee pads.
We just had the knee pads. We
Yes.
didn't have.
Remember
It was way too hard for
And it was
us.
hot.
We could do it
Yeah,
hot,
and it was
I think we were about 12.
something
You
like
were
that,
probably 10,
probably.
12.
around
Ray was
there.
about 8.
Yep,
And
yep.
Al was 6 and Sarah 4. They were useless. But, you know, we couldn't
spent
do
most of
it.
our life were useless. You know, the only thing about us was the only time we were really
Yeah,
useful to Bob and Raymond was when we had to go play football
Right.
across there next to Olson's and
Right.
we were the centers. And
That's
they
why
would
we were
knock the
useful.
crap out of us and off they'd go. Those get all their friends in. And we'll get Alma and Sarah, they'll be the centers. Nobody wanted to be the center. Thump, we were down together. There was always manure out that old pasture out there. It was I remember that. Let's go play football. And Alma and I look at each other, little tiny kids, you know.
I was thinking that when we moved in town, you were how old, Lois? I was 9.
Yes,
You were
I was
14.
16.
I was
Yeah.
13, I remember that, I was 13.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Ray
to be a
was
freshman in high school.
Yeah, and I was going into 6th grade. So
Right.
I was
Oh, were you this?
when we moved to town, I was going to the 4th grade.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so I was
right.
9.
Yes.
We had 2
When you went
years.
27th Street, you went to 6th grade.
No, 8th grade.
8th grade.
Yeah, 6th grade on
21st?
4th Street, 4th grade when we moved, I was in the 4th grade when we moved into town on 21st Street.
Yeah, that's
We
what I
lived
thought.
there 4 years.
That's what I thought.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then and Lois was with us until you were 18, 17.
Well,
You met Tom when you lived on 21st
I met Tim
Street.
when I was 17.
So that brings us into World War II.
Not
Well,
quite.
before
You
we
didn't
do
tell
that,
me
I
about
have
the
one-
chores.
We finished another chore,
I
okay.
have one more comment
Block out
about,
that statement. Go ahead.
about the ranch.
Yeah.
When I was 12, I felt really in love with the Boy Scouts.
Oh,
I was gonna be a Boy
Sea
Scout. And somewhere along the line, somebody gave me a bugle.
Oh, that's
I learned how to
right.
play the
Oh,
bugle,
that's
and
right.
remember that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I would play taps every night before I went to bed for the neighborhood. Great.
That old man up bugle, remember
Oh, I
that?
mean, I played reveille in the morning and
Yeah.
then taps at night to play the bugle. Yeah, I don't beat up music.
Was that Sea Scouts you went to? Was it
That
Sea
was later,
Scouts?
in high school, yeah,
Oh,
but
okay.
Boy Scouts, that
Boy
was it,
Scouts
when I was
to
gonna be a
begin
Boy Scout.
Oh, okay.
That's right, anyway, Cassie.
I think that's great. I think that's great.
Wow.
I didn't have any responsibilities out on the ranch, except I did have one that I remember. And I usually fed the dog boots,
Yes,
and I usually fed the lamb that we acquired.
that's right.
That was taken from the wires or somebody
Right.
from.
We
from-
found it.
didn't
Well, it
take
was only
was
there a
found
short
one.
time, yeah.
And it was only, but I remember standing out there and giving it the bottle to eat. That was my job, to feed the cats and the dog.
Right.
As much as the cats ate out the milk out there on the farm, out there at the barn a lot of the time. But the dog, that was my job. I remember going out there, and even when Boots had puppies. And I remember those things were important to me as a little tiny kid. I wasn't very old. But that was one of the things I had to do.
Sure.
Yeah, as a chore, was to do that,
I
to
must
feed
have
the
been
animals.
rolling around doing nothing.
Well, I think you must have been doing something.
I must
But
have done
I think the other thing that Lois and Bob had, and Raymond, had a real responsibility to take care of us.
Oh, I
And that
think
was
so.
when we went swimming.
I was gonna say, I'm glad you brought that up, because that really was our only recreation.
That was our
In the
only,
summer. There wasn't anything that we could go see during the day. And swimming was an answer to cooling off.
and where did we
But
swim?
we had to go so far,
Where did we swim?
Down on the canal on Coffee or whatever that,
Yeah,
Tyler,
way
whatever
over
that
there.
It was on
Tyler.
Cone and Tyler.
Right, yeah, didn't go to Cone, it was Gerard. We didn't
we
go to
decided
Cone.
to swim there so because the well
That's
brought
right.
the fresh, clean
That's
water.
right,
right.
big well pump,
That's right.
pumping water out of the
They
ground
never
there.
let us all go, and here I was.
She just dropped us off, 5 of us.
We didn't have any life preservers, we didn't know how to
No.
swimming,
No.
but
It
we
was
had
over your
rules.
head, but who cared?
But we had rules, and the rules were, Bob and Lois being the adult, the bigger kids, they got to swim at the head gate, down where the well was and the
Well, it
pump.
was deep water.
And it was the
Well,
deep
yeah.
water. Raymond was sort of in the
Oh,
middle. Alma and I got down to the shallow end, but there was a shallower part. And we were told we could not go
Right.
beyond that point. And at 4 and 5 years old, I wasn't that big, 6 years old. We didn't know how to swim, but we watched you guys and we sort of learned it. But we knew we could go no further than a certain spot. And if it got over our head or too high, we would run back and get back to the shallower spot. And they would stop the water from, Bob and Lois would keep the head gate closed so it wouldn't get too deep, the water would
That's
run
right.
through and get too deep for it. That was their job, take care of us as kids in the water, because Mother got in the car and said, I'll see you later.
She was 2 or 3 hours down there.
Oh, yeah,
Jeez.
yes, and she'd show up again, and there 5 of us are there, all 5 of us. She never seemed to be alarmed or really expecting
We never was
anything
left
else.
with water to drink
No,
or any
there was
food to
nothing
eat.
there.
Nothing. She just dropped us off for hours at a time. But I remember how pleased I was when Alma learned to swim.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
I
that.
was
Good
so
thing.
happy that she could swim. It was a great relief because then they wouldn't drown.
That's
I
right.
could know that I could swim a little and swim away and not have to stand there and watch
I
it.
Well,
think I
we
was
watched
about
you down
6
at the other
when
end, and I said, one of these days I'm gonna get down there. I just knew I was, I don't know.
was
But I
about-
watched out when you swam a
But
little
those
bit.
were chores,
That-
really.
those were
in some ways.
responsibilities.
It was your
Taking care of
responsibility.
each other.
That's right.
Responsibilities.
And, but I was about 6, I think, wasn't I, when I learned to
Yep.
swim? Yeah, I don't know how, we just learned to swim.
Yes.
Nobody gave you this instruction, that instruction, you just
You watch.
learned to swim. And I loved it, I loved going over there to
I
swim.
know.
Oh, I can hardly wait. I
And the
don't
water
remember.
was clean enough because
Yes.
we kept it clean
Nice and
enough.
cool.
And
It was
cool.
marvelous.
And
Yeah, they
you-
weren't spraying for insecticides or anything else in that old canal. Nobody ever stopped us. There was no posts around there. You can't swim or anything. We knew that was the place to swim, that it was safe, and Mother evidently knew that too.
But who else swam?
Nobody else.
Septons-
Sections didn't
septons
come
had
in.
other people.
I don't
Other
remember
people swam
anybody
there.
else.
Sections came down
Once
and
in a while,
swam.
but
They was
other
down by
than
their
that, it was
house.
just us.
They swam a little further
And the
down,
canal and the well is still there?
Yeah.
Still running, still pumping water?
probably.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
It is.
still
Isn't
there.
that amazing?
Yeah.
That we used to swim in that canal as little kids,
Yep.
alone, without any idea about first aid or anything, just keep your head out above water. If we got too deep,
Anyway.
but then, you know, you guys were able to control that by not opening the head gate and stuff.
How we
like that.
doing for time?